Hello friends, welcome to 99 Movie Recaps. Today we will recap horror movie The Human Centipede. So let's get started. Movie begins off evolved and we see Professor Joseph Hyder, who's sitting in his Mercedes and is calling at a picture. In that picture, 3 puppies stand in this sort of manner. That one is at the back of the alternative and the 0.33 is status at the back of them. On seeing this, a truck involves a forestall, and the truck driving force goes closer to the woodland for the toilet. Professor Joseph shoots his gun and objectives him. We see girls, one in all them is Jenny and the alternative is Lindsay. They each belong to America, however have come to Germany for an outing. They had long passed to the membership to have a good time, the birthday celebration. And Lindsay became taking up the decision approximately the birthday celebration area. Although each used to journey that they'd no unique concept approximately Germany. Both take rented vehicle and journey at nighttime to the area of the birthday celebration. The birthday celebrations area became now no longer acknowledged to them. Passing through the jungle, comes out pretty a long way and has misplaced their manner and receives caught with inside the trouble. While Jenny takes a U-flip of the automobile and their vehicle's tire receives punctured. They strive to name car repairing service. However, it's miles a woodland, so there may be no sign on their mobile. And they get caught on a first-rate street that has no populace round it, besides the aspect of the woodland. They each determine to stay inside the automobile and need to take assist from everyone who passes from this street. Then a vehicle passes there and that they each attempted to take assist from him. An vintage guy on this vehicle sees that each appearance on my own, and seeing them he attempts to annoy verbally. They are scared an excessive amount of, and lock the automobile from inside. Then that vehicle is going from there. Then they discover a domestic wherein they could name for assist. It is past due at night time and that they each stroll closer to the woodland. Then they be aware a mild emanating from a residence. They each make their manner closer to this residence. Then all of sudden rain begins off evolved heavily. They each get very moist once they attain this residence. They knock at the door and Professor Joseph comes out. They inform him their trouble and tells him to name an emergency for a vehicle repairman. Both are on my own, the professor invitations them in. There became a bizarre portrait inside the professor's residence that she became searching at together along with her bizarre eyes. And that entire portrait is pretty disturbing. The professor then asks them, are they tourists? And one in all them says that, we're from New York and feature come right here to go to Germany. She once more tells the professor to name the emergency name repairman. However, the professor does now no longer pay interest and ignores them. He then asks, are you relatives? She replies, we aren't relatives, however we're friends. Then the professor receives up and is going to the kitchen to get a few water. Also makes a phone name that Jenny and Lindsay. Suppose he is probably calling the decision repairman. Then he mixes a drug inside the water which Lindsay beverages but Jenny drops the glass. Seeing this, the professor treats them very badly. Then he is going basement to smooth the water. Going basement, he fills an injection. On the opposite hand, Lindsay become in a faint condition because of drug effects. But Jenny doesn't, and he tells the professor to name once more, but he refuses. Then he injects the equal injection into the neck of Jenny, and he has fainted immediately. Then the professor is having breakfast, and Jenny and Lindsay locate themselves inside the professor's lab. They recognize that they're tied to the mattress. In addition to those two, there may be a person who's additionally incarcerated, and he's the truck driver. The professor wishes to go into the lab and notifies the person, which he does now no longer praise, and that it's time for a person like him to die. Then he infuses a toxin into his arteries and dies as quickly as though he is. He then buried the frame of the motive force in his garden. The professor then makes use of his anesthesia dose to supply a person unconscious. He's from Japan, and he is sharing a mattress with Jenny and Lindsay. They all got here to senses and begin screaming, due to the fact they failed to understand what the professor might do to them. He comes ahead to clean their confusion. and introduces himself because the Professor Joseph and he's a retired surgeon. He become a mad physician. One of its most unearthly professions becomes sewing residing things. Not lengthy ago, he did the surgical procedure with 3 puppies at the back of every other. And that mad physician become going to carry out the equal operation on Jenny, Lindsay and Japanese. Because their pores and skin tissue matches. He become additionally telling them approximately the operation details. He first pulls out their knee ligaments. And end them absolutely in order that can't stand. He will join Challenge B to the bottom of Challenge A. And additionally Challenge C to the bottom of Challenge B. He will take off the pores and skin in their hip and place the pores and skin in their jaw there. And join the 3 as visible with inside the diagram. So, while the difficulty A eats a food, its waste cloth will pass into the mouth of difficulty B, and it will also pass into the mouth of difficulty C. It is obvious that this manner is pretty inexpensive and disgusting. And no regular character can do it. Because this medical doctor is loopy and he loves to do grimy experiments. It is his first revel in with the human body. First of all, he injects a lethargic injection to the Japanese guy. That reasons him in an subconscious state. Jenny is screaming loudly and the professor attempts to offer the identical injection to her as well. Meanwhile, Lindsay opens the rope together along with her enamel and runs away. She has drip needles in her hand that's pulling her pores and skin and reason bleeding. She is going to a room and closes its door. However, Professor arrives there and smash the window of that room. Lindsay additionally runs far from there and falls right into a pool. The Professor additionally comes there and covers all pool with a lid. Then all at once strength receives off. Taking darkness's benefit, Lindsay runs away. She is going to the Professor's lab and opens the rope of her pal Jenny, who's subconscious because of the injection. She drags Jenny from there and brings her outside, however Professor additionally comes there. He additionally gave her the identical injection, and Lindsay is now subconscious as well. Then he alternatives each of them and brings to the lab. Then he begins off-evolve the operation. First, he brings out the difficulties ligaments and enamel. Then he makes use of the marker to mark their body. Then gets rid of their hip and face skins, and does a long-term operation, scene end. Then some days later the Professor is proven even as drinking. And in the front of him, his human centipede is located at the ground. Their wounds aren't but healed. And the Professor attempts to pressure them to get up together. They are linked on this manner that at the leading edge is the Japanese guy. The center is Lindsay and on the maximum stop is Jenny. Jenny is on the stop and she or he is taken into consideration because the story of the centipede. They are feeling ache, however Professor makes a photo with the aid of using status them forcibly. Then he indicates them or replicate. And that they said continuously crying with the aid of using looking their condition. He maintains them with inside the cage and behaves like animals. And this factor is going on and on for lots days. He forces Japanese guys to devour like dogs. Professor once more breaks the Japanese guy jaws. Then we see that the Professor is treating them very badly and take them outside. Then the Japanese want to visit the toilet. On rejection, his human waste is going into the mouth of Lindsay. Lindsay has to swallow it. It turned into a grimy method in viewing, even in wondering as well. Professor examines their scientific condition, which indicates that Japanese is nice, however Lindsay has constipation, due to the fact she isn't always digesting the human waste of this guy. On the opposite hand, Jenny isn't always receiving any meals or energy supply for her body. Because she did now no longer consume something and getting weaker. Her wounds are nevertheless clean and he or she appears to be death soon. Professor thinks to relocate Jenny. Meanwhile, an unexpected knock at the door seems and we see 2 cops. The police come there to locate Jenny and Lindsay. They disappeared for lots days. Their automobile turned into a distance from the Professor's house. The Professor tells them he is a physician and he's so busy that he has no time to head out. He does not realize something, approximately the ones ladies. The Professor asks them to drink. They are saying we are able to have coffee. He says no, you may simplest get water. On it, the cops suspect him. And the professor turned into taking water even as blending capsules in it. The officer tells him a person has listened to the voice of the disappeared ladies from his house. And we've got discovered your Mercedes from the truck whose driver's lacking for lots days. Hearing it, he shouts and asks them to drink water. They throw the glass, making an excuse for the towel he is going to take the injection, from which he could make them faint. But this time he turned into uncovered in the front of the cops. In his explanation, he says you cannot tease all people with none reason. You cannot blame me with none warrant. They circulate to take their warrant. The professor involves his lab and he does not see his human centipede there. Because they hide. They stab a surgical knife in his belly. He falls because of it. The Japanese guy cuts the neck of the professor and its mass is available in his mouth. Then they are trying to head upstairs. Because they had been vulnerable and had been operated so that they cannot move upstairs. Their sewing location turned into bleeding. They climb up the steps, however the professor comes at the back of them. He begins off-evolved licking their blood from the steps. The Japanese wreck the replicate and the physician additionally arrives there. The Japanese sever his neck with the glass, and he dies as a result. Meanwhile, the one's law enforcement officials additionally attain there. But they didn't see anyone. They visit his lab, there has been additionally none. The police officer feels intoxicated because of the drug that he gave him with inside the water. When the alternative officer searches, he reveals them. But their situation became worse. The officer is going to the professor to keep him. He became sitting at a pool. His associate police officer became additionally killed. Then he shoots the alternative police officer with the pistol of the police officer. In return, the police officer additionally shoots Professor Joseph. They each die and there wasn't something left besides for the centipede made via way of means of Dr. Joseph. It became a reasonably priced test of a mad doctor. The film ends. The movie The Human Centipede, first sequence, was released in year 2009. Movie is directed by Tom Six. It's a Dutch horror movie. IMDb rating is 4.4 out of 10. The main cast of the movie are Ashley C. Williams, Ashlyn Yenny and Akiro Kitamura. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe our channel 99 Movie Recaps.